We are just one day away from the ABC 2024 presidential debate, and Trump is aiming to define Kamala Harris's far left record. This as 28% of likely voters say when it comes to Harris, they need to learn more, compared to just 9% for Donald Trump. Here with to help set all of this up, set up the stage, Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and Charlie Hurt. Good morning to both of you.
Hi there.
Hi. Okay, Tammy, good morning, Charlie. Tammy, I'll start with you. What does Donald Trump need to do to focus really on her background, her policies? Because clearly 1/3 of the American voters don't know what she stands for.
Yes, and I think that's key. And this is why you suddenly saw Kamala Harris put up some positions, which frankly also look like word salads on her website. But he needs to focus on, as everyone is saying, and he understands the issues. That's why he's running. He's running because of the issues. But I think that it's key because this is also about transparency. What is her problem with not doing interviews, with not speaking about the issues? And like, as an example, with immigration on her website, it's the same kind of word salad and is claiming that the border is, there's fewer people coming over. And then she recommends amnesty, right? A path to citizenship. So it's the same thing people have heard. It's nothing new. And I think that he needs, and this is key, to remind people you can just look at what people have done, not what they say. And he has a history, she has one. And the problem for her is she's running from hers and he is running toward his. It's an easier position to be in. So it's about where he stands on the issues. What is he going to accomplish? She is not going to be able to compete with that.
Charlie, here are some of the flip-flops that she's going to have to address. She originally said she wanted to ban fracking, said that for years. Medicare for all, including illegals, a border wall, funding, decriminalization for everyone who crosses the border, and federal jobs guarantee. That was part of the Green New Deal. How does she pivot from these positions, and how does she explain that to the American people?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult, and I agree with Tammy that it is going to end up coming down to credibility. Look, Donald Trump is probably the greatest political debater we've ever had in American history. He went through the 2016 primary and knocked out 18 Republicans. He managed to knock out a sitting president out of the race before the first ballot was cast in a debate. But I think that what will be sort of surprising to people is I think that Kamala Harris will end up actually doing better than people are anticipating because there's been so much hype about how bad she is with her word salads. But the problem is that she will appear to do better during the debate. But the problem is that you're going to take whatever she says during the debate and compare it to all of those platforms that you just listed that she's already flipped on and compare the tape from tomorrow night to all the other things that she said in the past. And the problem with that is not only does it suggest that she has no idea where she is on the issues, the problem is that it reveals her willingness to say anything she has to say to get elected, and that goes to the heart of credibility, and nothing defines a politician like credibility, either losing it or having it.
And you're right.
Trump has the credibility, and she does not.
You're right about, I mean, he ran the first time, I'm not a politician, and people like that because he's genuine. Right. We know where he stands. A typical politician flip-flops, right? When they realize the American public doesn't like your old policies. All right, here's Bernie Sanders. This was over the weekend, and he was saying, no, she has not changed. She's still a progressive. She's just doing this to win. Listen to this.
I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. Her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
All right, Tammy, your reaction.
Yes, well, he used the word ideals. She used the word values. And when she used that word values in that interview that she did for 16 minutes, that was a wink and a nod to the left flank. That was what I just said. Don't listen to what I say. Watch what I do. We were also told by this team that they were going to be the uniters, that they were going to bring things back to normal. Their normal is chaos. Their normal is a bad economy. Their normal is crime. Their normal is an open border. Their normal are world wars. We've seen it now, and they are making the mistake of underestimating the American people. And that's where that New York Times Santa poll indicates, is that the American people, want change. after all of this, they don't see her as the agent of change. They see Trump as that person.
Okay, Charlie, quick reaction.
I love the way he says that. He said that like he was helping her out, and he's actually absolutely destroying her credibility as he says it. But, you know, he's won from this. You know, nobody has gained more from the Biden-Harris administration than radicals like Bernie Sanders.
Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of y'all being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhardt. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
One by one, the ghost crew appears. I'm at home with the wisps of boys filling the cemetery. Will the murder stop? One day, gotta believe, Jerome. You've got to believe.
In 2019, then Hawaii Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard knocked Kamala Harris for a loop when she went after her record on the debate stage.
There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
I am proud of that work, and I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work.
And now, as the former Democrat works to prepare former President Trump for tomorrow's 2024 presidential debate, Politico says her shadow is looming over Harris. Trump's transition team member, Tulsi Gabbard, joins us now. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. So a lot of people are asking, how is Donald Trump preparing? I know you've been brought in to help him with this. One of his campaign managers was on with us earlier and said that his tactics are different than Kamala Harris's in the way he preps. Tell us what it's looking like for Donald Trump.
Well, Kamala Harris is a politician in the worst sense of the word. Donald Trump is not and has never been, nor will he ever be, a typical politician. And, you know, he is very well versed on the issues. He is very well versed on Kamala Harris's record. And he's talking about these issues almost every day as he's out with the American people across the country, as he's doing interview after interview, town hall after town hall. And so for me, if there's anything that I can be helpful with, it really is just sharing the experience that I had with her on that debate stage and the kinds of tactics I think she will try to use to perhaps get under his skin or really to try to deflect away. Her goal is going to be to deflect away from her disastrous record that has caused greater harm to the American people in so many ways, and then shift to the new story, the new narrative that she wants to make voters believe and hopes that they will forget what she's already done over these last 3.5 years.
So what's your advice to Donald Trump when she does try to deflect?
He is looking forward to this debate, and he is looking forward to focusing on Kamala Harris's record. And as you've said a few times this morning, Ainsley, since I've been watching, why hasn't she fixed the things that she is now saying are broken over the last 3.5 years? She is the incumbent candidate in this race. She is Vice President Kamala Harris, and she has had the opportunity over these 3.5 years, especially with Joe Biden, to have already brought about the kinds of changes that she is now promising that she will do in her quote unquote new way forward. How can there be a new way forward when she is responsible for disastrous economic and foreign policies, domestic and international policies that have been the hallmark of this administration, once again, that have not helped the American people? It's actually hurt the American people.
Yeah, I know that he said when he had the town hall with Sean Hannity, he said, you might not like me, but look at my policies compared to Kamala Harris's policies. And there's a poll out this morning, New York Times, Siena poll, saying that 1/3 of American voters don't even know what she stands for. So she's put some of her policies on her website. What if she nudges him to go personal? Many people are telling Donald Trump, don't go personal. keep it on the policies. What's your advice for him there?
President Trump doesn't need my advice on this because he is very much focused on the issues and how he will fix what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have broken over these last 3.5 years. Donald Trump isn't running for president for himself. He is running for president because he sees the risks and the dangers that we face as a country right now, specifically because of the Harris-Biden administration. And he wants to serve our country and serve the American people and actually fix what they have broken.
The rules that he's agreed to and Kamala has now agreed to are the same rules that we saw at the last presidential debate when he was debating Joe Biden. It's muted mics, no studio audience. You can't take notes, just water and a piece of paper and a pen. So if you want to jot down thoughts in the middle of the debate, how does that fare for Donald Trump? Does that help him or hurt him?
I think he did a fantastic job in his debate against Joe Biden. Clearly, the results speak for themselves, and he will do the same in this debate with Kamala Harris. You know, Vice President Harris should not be underestimated. Clearly, as some of the media reports have shown, they have been studying my debate with her in 2019 and setting aside almost a week of solid debate prep with the lights and the stage and the stand-ins and everything. Donald Trump hasn't been doing that because he doesn't need to do it. He's been out speaking to the American people. She's taking this debate seriously. She will come prepared with memorized lines, ready to recite and deliver them in what I think will be a very effective way. However, she cannot run away from her record. President Trump looks forward to making sure the American people remember what she has done over these last 3.5 years and how she had the opportunity to fix what's broken, but she's the one responsible for breaking it. He will come in as president and actually begin to fix those problems and get us back on track as a country.
I know you were so calm during that debate with her. That was this summer, and then she dropped out of the race that next December. It speaks volumes that you're helping Donald Trump after you ran as a Democrat and ran against her. Thank you so much, Tulsi, for coming on.
Thanks, Ainsley.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. New Zaxby's Chicken Finger Tacos.
All right, let's bring in Steamboat Institute Blankley Fellow and Restoring America editor at the Washington Examiner, Kaylee McGee-White. Kaylee, good morning. Great to see you as always. So you just heard Brooke mention the latest New York Times Siena College polls, and that's really the big story of the day because they do show that Kamala Harris's hot streak is coming to an end. In two areas of note within this polling, a majority of people say they want a change candidate, and a majority of people say that Donald Trump is just that over Kamala Harris. The other area is 47% of likely voters view Kamala Harris as too liberal compared to 32% who see Donald Trump as too conservative. So what do you think about that, what the polling shows, and where the race stands right now?
Well, it shows that her basement strategy has not worked, Carly. Remember, she's avoided the press for this long in the hopes of avoiding tough questions about her past record. She doesn't want to have to explain her policy flip-flops. And of course, at the DNC, you had several major Democratic figures get up on that stage and try to portray Kamala Harris as the change agent, despite her record being tied with President Joe Biden's. This strategy has not worked at all, and these polls simply confirm that. And going into this debate, that's why it's going to be so important for her to make a better impression than she already has. So she's actually raised the stakes for herself by hiding from the press and by hiding from the public.
Yeah, well, Trump spokesperson Jason Miller is pleased with this new round of polling. He responded to it saying the honeymoon is officially over. It's still a tight race, though. It's anyone's to win or lose. And the New York Times puts it this way. Bringing out Mr. Trump's most self-destructive instincts is a priority for Ms. Harris, as is coming across as cool-headed and presidential. The Trump camp has a straightforward goal for the debate to force Ms. Harris both to own her partnership with the unpopular Mr. Biden and to take responsibility for the parts of his presidency that voters are unhappiest about. So it sounds like in terms of strategy, Kaylee, she's playing on emotion. He's focusing more on policy. So how do you think that will play out?
Well, we should make a bet, Carly, to see how long it takes her to mention convicted felon within this debate, because I'm sure that's going to be a key part of her strategy here. She's always done better when she's serving as a prosecutor, when she's the one asking these questions. This is why her campaign made a big deal about the muted mics. They really wanted that moment of her pushing back on Trump. Those rules have not been changed, though. She will be dealing with muted mics, which means that she is going to have to be the one to answer questions. She is going to have to explain her policy flip-flops. And as we know, she has tried to avoid doing so. And again, she's put herself at a disadvantage here. If she were out holding press conferences regularly, if she were speaking to the media on a regular basis, she might have more practice answering the questions that she will be asked on Tuesday night. But instead, she walks into this, at a disadvantage because of her own strategy.
Yeah, that's a good point. She's dealing with it by doing the debate prep in Pittsburgh, and apparently there's a person acting as Trump, even wearing the same type of suit that Donald Trump wears and long tie. So we'll see if that replaces going out, speaking to the media, the American people, and taking those crossfire questions more aggressively. Only time will tell, and we will learn on Tuesday. Senator Bernie Sanders was on one of the Sunday shows yesterday, and he made an admission that likely won't help Kamala Harris in the end. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
So you can translate that to she's still as progressive as ever. She's just pretending not to be in order to win the election. What do you think about that?
Right, saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah. And again, the polls that you mentioned earlier actually confirm that voters recognize this and that voters do not believe that she has changed her progressive values at all. As you mentioned, more than half think that she is far too liberal for their liking. And she is. She was rated the most liberal senator in the Democratic Party for years. And again, she herself is on record admitting that her values have not changed. So this is the point that Trump needs to hit home during the debate. He has a very simple task ahead of him. And the question is really the same under Kamala as it was under Biden, which is, are you better off now than you were under my presidency? Because if you're not, she's going to make that so much worse with her radical record.
Yeah, and one day before the debate and 56 days before the presidential election, there is finally a policy page on Kamala Harris's campaign website. So if you're curious, you can go on and check that out. Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Oh, gosh!
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full business functionality and a design tailored just for you. Customize every element of your website and watch your vision come to life in minutes. Control everything from the biggest tasks to the finest details. Personalized, optimized, ready to go live.
With respect to our investigation, I mean, we've disclosed all of the findings. The findings are horrible for the Biden family. Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, the president's son, the president's brother, they're going to need a pardon because the next Justice Cabinet is going to prosecute them for perjury, for Congress, and for lots of financial crimes.
That's House Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer speaking with Maria in late July on their investigation into the Biden family's overseas business dealings. On Thursday, Hunter Biden surprised federal prosecutors when he entered a guilty plea to all 9 federal tax charges brought by special counsel David Weiss. In a statement, the first son said, quote, "I will not subject my family to more pain, more invasions of privacy, and needless embarrassment. For all I have put them through over the years, I can spare them this, and so I have decided to plead guilty. Now, all eyes turn to the White House, whether President Biden will pardon Hunter before he leaves the Oval Office in January. Joining me now with reaction is Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, a key member of the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us on Sunday Morning Futures. Look, this is the first case. Hunter Biden has other cases that are still pending, plus the potential allegations that came over the Oversight Committee. What's your reaction to him pleading guilty?
Look, this is something we've known all along, and the prosecutors have really shown the American people that this is not partisan. He was indeed guilty. He was breaking the law. But I want to remind people that just because he's pleading guilty doesn't mean that our job stops. Ultimately, this whole thing is that Hunter Biden was really the keystone in regards to the influence peddling that was really benefiting the now sitting president, Joe Biden. And so I do believe that our actual delegation and our committee needs to actually put forward legislation to stop influencing peddling at this magnitude. I mean, it was egregious what has happened. And honestly, I mean, so much media went to defend Hunter Biden. He was guilty all along.
Yeah, and he's lucky on those tax charges that the statute of limitations ran out. Otherwise, those federal prosecutors should have been prosecuting him for that as well. This story will continue on. It'll be interesting to see if the president actually pardons him. But I want to shift gears on us here a little bit, and I want to talk about something that's going to affect all of us. And that is the idea that if people that are here illegally in the United States, not United States citizens, the concern is about election integrity. Should you or should you not be a United States citizen to vote in a federal election? And 198 Democrats previously said no. How in the world can they possibly justify that?
You know, that's a question that we all ask. You know, if you're defending someone illegally voting in our elections, you're ultimately undermining the very sacred integrity of this institution. And so I think what you'll find is that Republicans and some moderate Democrats have been very supportive of the SAVE Act. But I think what you find when we attach it to the CR, I think that you'll find that Democrats are going to be voting against that. I've actually been hearing about that from a lot of my colleagues, to include those across the aisle. And I think it really brings up the bigger question here is that Democrats want to say that our elections are safe and secure, yet they're actively fighting against us being able to hold people accountable. And so I think everyone needs to kind of ask that question. But more importantly, there's other countries like China, like Russia, like Iran that don't want there to be safe and secure elections in this country. So the best thing that we can all do, especially from a bipartisan perspective, is hammer this home and send it over to the Senate to see if they'll pass it.
Look, personally, I believe everybody should vote same day, same time, same information, in person with a voter ID. Now, that is not the way it is set up right now. Early voting happens. And if Republicans don't engage in the process and getting their ballots in and getting them in early, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage. So you got to play by the rules that are there. But this idea that you would allow somebody who's not a United States citizen to be able to vote, I can't imagine that the United States Senate is going to look everybody in the eye and say, we're willing to shut down the government because we want to make sure that people that are here illegally have a chance to vote. That it's just crazy.
Well, we'll see what happens. You know, Mike Johnson is going to be in those negotiating rooms, so we'll see what he does. But what I can tell you is, you know, remember, we just had that massive Social Security breach where everyone's Social Security numbers were leaked. And so I think that this actually comes at the perfect timing, because we do want to ensure that people are requiring proof of citizenship and that they're not actually using people's Social Security numbers to be able to vote. And so I can tell you that we're going to be championing it. I know my constituents want me to vote for it. I will be voting for it. But I hope that my colleagues do the right thing, because frankly, people are just tired of the nonsense in Washington.
Is there any other thing that Congress can do short of passing this act? Now, one could argue that it's actually illegal now to do this, but what else can they do other than push this? And Congress is coming back into session, I believe, this week. It's going to be up to Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats to take this bill up and get it passed. But Speaker Johnson has his hands full. But I think the moral imperative is it could not be higher.
You know, I think that Speaker Johnson needs to understand that he's going to be basically our top negotiator on this, and that he needs to be willing to play hardball. And if they are in any way, shape, or form trying to pass a CR without this being attached and trying to gut it,
that he needs to be willing to make that tough decision and say, fine, if you guys don't want to ensure that our elections are safe and secure, you're not getting what you want. And I think he needs to put his foot down. And unfortunately, I know that that might make him uncomfortable, but we have a nation to save, and this is the right thing to do. We have people coming into this country unvetted, unchecked, that have nefarious objectives here. And so it's time to play ball.
I want to ask you real quickly a question about the debate. Tuesday night means everything. You've seen Kamala Harris. She has flipped and flopped and changed positions on key issues. She's now running ads saying she's in favor of the border wall, which is, I mean, it's just laughable on its face. What do you think is going to happen Tuesday night? What does President Trump need to do? What does Kamala Harris need to do?
I think President Trump needs to stay focused on his policy and what he's done for this country, and it's a win-win all the way around. I think right now Kamala Harris, a lot of Democrats were pushing her. They frankly didn't even get a chance to really vote her as the nominee, right? We saw what happened with the kind of switcheroo with Joe Biden. But ultimately, as long as he stays focused on policies, which he will, I know the people doing the debate prep with him, I think he's going to shine like the star that he is. You know, Kamala Harris keeps trying to run away from the border issue, and so she'll try to pivot on other issues like abortion. I think he stays focused on inflation, immigration, border security. He's going to win all the way through, to include this November.
Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Vistaprint prints everything to get your brand in front of your fans, like t-shirts, water bottles, and totes, so everyone can gift it, work in it, and take it. Whether it's one of a kind or one for your whole team, if you need it, we print it with 25% off for new customers at Vistaprint.com.
Joining us now, Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be with you.
So I know last year during the primary season, you had some concerns about whether President Trump was the right way forward for the party. You wanted to know whether he can expand beyond his fervent base, which is clearly sticking with him. Do you think he's done enough to build a coalition outside of that? What does he need to do Tuesday night?
Well, I think he needs to let Kamala Harris talk, something she's been reluctant to do unless she's reading a teleprompter. And I think, you know, we've seen the polls very close, but mainly she's coming off of this, as James Carville called it, a sugar high after the coup d'etat that was committed against Joe Biden. And then, of course, the convention. So I'm looking forward to a repetition of the good debate performance that President Trump had with President Biden. And I think he's up to it.
So after that change at the top of the ticket, there's been a lot of new enthusiasm, new fundraising, and there is talk about how that's impacting down ballot. Politico says that Republicans are starting to get a little concerned about the fundraising gap, saying this: panic is starting to set in. The only thing preventing us from having a great night in November is the massive financial disparity our party currently faces. That's from the executive director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. He says unless something changes drastically in the next 6 weeks, we will lose winnable seats. Are you worried about this down ballot impact on efforts by the GOP to retake the Senate?
Well, fundraising is important, but so are the issues, so are the quality of the candidates. And I think we have an outstanding group of candidates running for the Senate. I'm optimistic about our chances to regain the majority. And I hope they have enough money to defend themselves and to talk about what they are for, what they would do if elected. I'm confident they will, but yeah, the money's just astronomical. It just blows my mind.
It really is. I mean, when you watch these ticking in, the millions that have come in just to the presidential race, hundreds of millions just the last few weeks. Of course, you are in the running to replace Mitch McConnell as the Senate's top Republican. What will your priorities be should you achieve that post? And how might that differ if you're dealing with a Harris-Walz administration versus a Trump-Vance administration?
Well, when President Trump is reelected, along with my colleague J.D. Vance, I expect we'll be helping the administration pass their agenda. And I don't see a lot of daylight between what Republicans in the Senate want to do or know we need to do. Things like reauthorize the expiring provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We need to reestablish our nation as the preeminent leader in the world when it comes to national security matters under President Biden. Our friends don't trust us and our enemies don't fear us. It was the opposite under President Trump. So we'll be working very closely with the administration to accomplish their priorities. And I don't really see, as I see, a lot of daylight between what my colleagues in the Senate want to do next year. We're going to have to also, though, look at the debt. We're now spending more money on interest on the national debt than we are on defense. And right now, the world has gotten more dangerous, and most dangerous since World War II. So we have a lot of heavy lifting to do, and it'll help the bigger our majority is.
So let's talk about a couple of things you mentioned there, the tax cuts. You know, Democrats from the vice president on down say that they are President Trump, a rich guy giving cuts to rich people. And when you talk about the debt, that those kinds of tax cuts actually leave a revenue lag for the federal government and contribute to things like the debt.
Well, the American people are not undertaxed. The federal government spends too much.
Do you admit both parties do that?
Well, there's some complicity there. Certainly during COVID-19, there was a lot of bipartisan efforts to keep our economy afloat and to help deal with this pandemic. But there's been a lot of partisan spending, gasoline really on the inflation fire, $2.7 trillion in partisan spending bills post-COVID. But I think we're at an inflection point. Part of the problem is we spend money in ways that are not just appropriations. We spend $1.8 trillion in the tax code. There's about $200 billion alone that's spent through the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. I'm for those, but I do think they need to be offset. They need to be paid for. And so we need to look at all of that $6 trillion in federal spending and determine what our priorities are as a nation. I think that's our job.
Well, and we also are about to get to the end of government funding, facing another continuing resolution, sort of that short-term financial Band-Aid. It looks like the House is going to send it over with the SAVE Act attached, which basically says if you're going to go register to vote in federal elections, you have to show proof that you're a U.S. citizen. A number of Senate Democrats have said that's dead on arrival. It's not going to happen. How worried are you about this thing pinging back and forth and facing a shutdown? Is that going to hurt Republicans in, this final stretch of an election?
Well, Shannon, in a sane world, the SAVE Act would be non-controversial. It essentially is a national voter ID. And I would think both parties and everybody would be interested in protecting the integrity of the ballot and making sure that people only legally qualified to vote do so. But it's become a partisan issue, which is amazing to me. And but I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. We'll see. The House will have to move first, and they got to get to 218, and then it comes to the Senate. I hope we'll have a debate and an opportunity to vote on it. And I can't imagine that Senator Schumer is excited about having his incumbents who are running tough Senate races voting against a bill that just says you have to be an American citizen to vote.
That'll be in the next couple of weeks, we think. But I want to touch on the border because clearly Texas bears a huge brunt of this and what's going on there. The vice president, though, has been touting her work. She says she was tough on cartels and gangs, and she's litigated against these people, held them accountable. She also said this in her DNC speech.
Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security.
I will not be surprised if your colleague, Senator Chris Murphy, brings this up when we talk to him next. It has been a messaging talking point that has stuck for Democrats, this idea that President Trump is the one who kept the border problem alive because he told you guys not to vote for it.
Well, that's just false, is a short answer to that. And the truth is that the Biden-Harris administration has spent 3.5 years dismantling all of the Trump border security policies that produced a far better outcome at the border. I was just down in the Rio Grande Valley a couple weeks ago with Senator John Bozeman from Arkansas, and the way the Border Patrol explained it to me, they said this is a shell game. Now the federal government, if you use the CBP One app, Customs and Border Protection One app, you can schedule an appointment at a port of entry, and the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration will simply usher you into the United States and give you a work permit. That is a huge magnet on continued illegal immigration. So we need to return to the policies of the previous administration, remain in Mexico, just as one of them. But this is all a shell game, in my view.
We will see. And whoever wins, White House, House, Senate, whether it's divided or together, there hasn't been much progress on the issue of immigration. So we'll see. Thank you for stopping by. Always
Thanks,
good to see
Shannon.
you, Senator.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.
It's printing time, baby.
Former President Trump rallying Wisconsin voters, calling out Vice President Harris's record on the economy after a weaker than expected jobs report. Listen.
Harris cast the tie-breaking votes that caused the worst inflation in American history, costing a typical family $28,000. Think of that. Yesterday, it was announced that we lost 438,000 full-time jobs in August. We lost almost 500,000 jobs in August. We lost 24,000 manufacturing jobs, nearly 6,000 auto manufacturing jobs.
Here to react is CEO of Goya, Bob Unanue. Bob, it's so great to have you on this morning. So you heard Donald Trump in Wisconsin talking about the economy, hammering away what he did versus what the Biden-Harris administration has done. How do you think that this is going to go in the debate? How will Kamala respond to these kinds of attacks and, frankly, data?
Well, thanks, Rachel. So great to see you. You have two records that are very clear. Donald Trump had prosperity, and the Harris-Biden administration gave us inflation and basically poverty. They're driving us into poverty. Poverty is slavery. They started off by declaring war on fossil fuels, the Green New Deal, a weakness around the planet, which drove war in Ukraine, which was a very productive agricultural country, and Russia and Ukraine with 50% of the world's fertilizer, which tripled the cost of fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
We've just gone from bad to worse. The record is very clear. I don't know how they can spin it that we're better off than we were before. I've worked 50 years. I'm 70 years old. The average Social Security check, the other inflation is taxes and Social Security. The average Social Security check is $1,200. Illegals coming into this country receive nearly $4,000 in benefits. We need to get up every day with purpose, God, family, work, and work is very important. Why educate ourselves to produce, to make a difference when the government says, hey, just stay in your bunker, don't get up. We're going to take care of you. There's no reason to, use this beautiful mind and body that the Lord has given us to produce and to work.
Yeah, I think she's going to have a hard time defending this. It's going to be a very, very interesting debate, no doubt about that. I want to talk a little bit about what else you do on the side, because you're the CEO of Goya. You're clearly providing a great service to our country. You do a lot in Latino groceries, especially, and products. But you also give a lot. So this Thursday, Bob, you're going to receive the 2024 Hope Award from an organization that I am part of. I'm on the board. Jesse Waters' wife, Emma, is also. It's called Hope Through Education, for doing your part in educating and protecting God's children. This organization, Bob, as you know, provides scholarships for kids who are trying to escape public schools that aren't working for them, for economically disadvantaged kids. And it gives them scholarships to go to classical schools, Catholic schools, private schools. Tell us why you wanted to be part of this and unite with Goya Cares, your organization, and Hope Through Education.
Well, Rachel, what you do is so incredible, and so many other people. And it's your heart that makes an incredible difference. But, the children are under attack today. It's amazing. Hope in education. There's hope in educating ourselves. Like I said, why educate yourselves if you're not going to use the gifts that God has given you? Jesus said, "Let the children come to me, for the kingdom of God is for such as these." And there's an amazing industry that the Harris-Biden administration has created has expanded and exploded. There's two industries, the biggest industries in the world: child trafficking and drugs. Trafficking and drugs. 75% of the victims are women, 25% are children. We're allowing ourselves, we're selling our souls. And this administration is working on power, control, and greed. The hundreds of billions of dollars in this. So, we need to educate our children. We need to lift ourselves out of poverty. And this the hope in education is the way to do it. And, it's just horrific what's been happening to our children. The U.S. is the biggest consumer.
I know.
And, this was under the watchful eye of the border czar, Kamala Harris, who has allowed our children to be exploited. And as long as we sell our soul, we're giving out. You look at the big cities, all the handouts. I've worked my whole life to get a small Social Security check if I take it, if I ever decide to retire. But people are coming into this country that have never worked, and they're not only that, committing crimes. And we have to work, all day to get a measly Social Security check. We have to have purpose in our lives, God, family, work. We need a reason to get up every day.
Well, you're, of course, referring to our open border and what has happened. 300,000 children have been lost by the Biden administration. Many of them have fallen into sex slavery and trafficking, and no one on the left is talking about it. Nobody cares. But you do. Goya Cares, that's your organization. You're raising awareness about child sex trafficking, and you're also going to schools along with Hope Through Education to educate children so they don't fall into this as well. Bob, you are an amazing businessman, but more importantly, you're a man of God and a philanthropist, and we thank you for your work through Goya Cares and through Hope Through Education. And I look forward to being at that event where you'll very rightfully receive that award. Bob, we love you. Thanks for joining us today.
Love you too. God bless. Look forward to seeing you.
Likewise.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me? Type a Y in the chat if you can hear me. It's about to be on like Donkey Kong tonight. Yeah. What's the truth? Can you hear me? I got you, Vic. We'll come in the back chat when you can. Get my settings correct here. Yeah, we still got an hour left, about a little less than an hour. So we can chop it up in the background, whatever. Jaeger bomb, I got you. I'm about to put you in a minute. Hold on. Let me get my settings right here. I got you, Mr. Vic. Got you, Jaeger. Rush of Truth. Oh, yeah, it's about to go down tonight.
Yo.
How my audio sound? I sound like shit? I sound good.
If you can hear me, it sounded good.
Okay, I can hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. You can have your camera on or off. You ain't got to have it on.
I'm on my phone. I'm going to have to hop on my computer in just a minute.
Yeah, we got some time, but if y'all got anything you want to discuss, Mr. Victor Rogers, what you think about this debate that's about to come up? Who you got in this debate?
Well, now, on the last debate, Donald Trump easily defeated Biden. So much so until Biden dropped out the race. So they are thinking that Kamala Harris is going to out debate Trump tonight, and they're going to use things such as the school shooting that happened in Georgia. They're going to use the fact that they said they got the country out of the serious part of COVID. They're going to try to say that they have the lowest unemployment rate ever, especially amongst African Americans. And Kamala Harris is going to try to say that because she's a prosecutor, she will have no problem debating Donald Trump.
Okay. I hear everything what you're saying.
Yes.
I hear everything what you're saying. Let me get one of my guys right. We gotta try to get him in here. Give me a second.
Wait now. No, you cannot have.
I got your Will, I got your Brielle, I got your Vic.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Can you hear my audio?
It sound loud and clear, old boy. So yeah,
you gonna be on here throughout the whole debate?
yeah. I mean, for most of it, I'm trying to get. I know we're a little early. I just wanted to get some discussion in. If y'all want to talk about something, I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
on here.
good, because I'm at the dip. I'm just getting in the house. I ain't been get straight yet. But
Nah, go ahead. Do what you got to do and just come back in. We're gonna be in here.
Oh, okay. Well, I got some time right now though.
Hey, bro. Yeah. Everything. How my settings? Everything looks straight.
Everything put it straight. For some reason, I don't know why I keep kicking myself out. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
Nah, you good.
Okay.
Just hit that mute. Just hit that mute button when you got to go in private.
Right. Okay, then.
All right, give me a second.
issues that affect us.
My audio coming through?
After inflation reached a 40-year
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, old boy.
Rebecca?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and broadcast since you, I don't know what's going on. But we know that that Trump ain't gonna have as strong as a victory this time. I mean, he might be up there, but it ain't gonna be no cakewalk just because Biden there. Remember, Biden could highly speak and get around the wheelchair and everything. But Kamala, she might not be talking about nothing, but she gonna have some action, not action, but she gonna have energy. That's what she got. She got energy. And we coming from a person on the Democratic side with no energy. So this ain't gonna be no cakewalk for Trump as far as putting on. Now, when it comes to actually talking about some stuff, I don't know. But as far as just on face value, just watch what I tell you.
He's talking cool. But yeah.
I'm telling you the truth.
I hear you. I hear you, Bojangling and Buck dancing.
Okay.
I'm just talking crap, man. And we're gonna have a spirited debate. We're gonna have a spirited discussion tonight. Say what's on your mind.
Russia True said she can't hear me. She must be
Russia True, you gotta turn your audio on.
I think what I just said might hurt her ears just now.
Hold on, let me cut her off back on. No, she got hers on mute. We gotta get Vicky going in and out. I'm trying to get my overlay on. Let's cut this audio. Let's see what these liberals talking about.
Voters what she would do differently, how she would make a difference in their actual wallets. It's one of the few policy areas that she's gone into the most detail of so far. She knows that she has to continue to make that argument.
And Rachel, Donald Trump has just seized on this issue again and again, over and over.
Again and again, and for good reason, because you just heard from Rebecca there. This is the single most important issue to voters, and he does have an edge on Vice President Kamala Harris in poll after poll. It's a big reason why his advisors want him to focus on the issues tonight, not the attacks.
And the other issue where you
Brielle, let's do an audio check. Make sure your audio good, because I ain't heard you yet. We done heard everybody except you.
That's the huge advantage is the border.
It's going to be a cakewalk.
I got you.
It's going to be a cakewalk. The reason why I say that is that people are
A cakewalk with who now?
But it's going to be a cakewalk for Trump because people already see through Kamala Harris. Shoot, man, you got Bernie Sanders who just threw her under the bus.
When it comes,
okay,
straight up said, yeah, she's not who she says she is. She's not going to do anything for the black community. She's not going to keep her word.
You don't think so?
No, heck, almost cuss. No, she ain't gonna keep her word. And what gets me is that the only reason why Kamala Harris, again, everybody sees it. The only reason why Kamala Harris is loud because she called herself a black woman. She ain't black. About to sound like Uncle Ruckus. She ain't black. She is Indian. Well, the South, something Asian, Asia, whatever. Like her. Gracious, her dad doesn't even consider himself black. I mean, he has Indian too in him. So, but that's the only reason why. It's because she a female and that she so calls herself black. That's it. But she's going to have a hard time during this debate. The only thing that Trump cannot do is just because we have a very sensitive country, which is only a small amount of people. The only thing that Trump cannot do is just, I guess you could say, like, be disrespectful. That's even though she's disrespectful herself, what she had done to the black community and what she had done to this nation, Donald Trump cannot be disrespectful. So yeah, it's gonna be a cakewalk for Trump. It's gonna be a cakewalk.
What has she done to the nation, though? That's the question.
What's the worst thing she done for the nation?
Allowing all these illegals in. Come on now. Come on. She allowed all these illegals in. All right. The jobs are crap. Okay, you have you have like all these child molesters, you have these rapists, you have like just coming in, kicking people out of their apartments, hurting people, killing people. Inflation hasn't gone down. You still have people who have who where I work get paid $30 an hour plus more, and still working from paycheck to paycheck. The
So is
woman
it?
had a chance. The woman had the chance to pretty much, because she was like a tiebreaker. She had the chance to bring down prices, but she voted against it. She has done nothing for this nation. And what she's saying, all the stuff that she's saying, is what China is China. It's communism. If that's what you want, move over to China. Shoot, I'll pay for your plane ticket. I won't pay for your living, but I pay for your plane ticket. Go, bye. So that's sorry. Yeah, that's just me. I mean.
Okay. Now, here's the thing.
Vic, go ahead, Vic. I got you in here.
Okay. They gonna first say that she went to HBCU, Howard University. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell y'all a little something. When my nephew graduated with his master's in divinity from Howard University, she was the speaker, and she actually got booed by people at her own school. Yeah, she did. Yeah. But she's gonna use the fact that she graduated from an HBCU. She's gonna use the fact that she's a part of a Divine Nine Black sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha. And she's gonna try to use those things to say that she's a part of the Black community. And I'm gonna tell y'all something else as well. She was on the radio with Charlemagne the God when he did the interview, and he asked about marijuana reform. So when she said, "Well, I'm half Jamaican," I took up ha 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 with the laughing that she does. Her father got pretty pissed off at her about that because he said that you are presenting a stereotype of Jamaican people. Just because I'm Jamaican don't mean that I get high or I smoke marijuana, what have you. So there's going to be certain things that she's going to try to use. As I stated earlier, she's going to say, because I'm a prosecutor, I know how to debate him. And we're going to see.
But see, that stuff ain't going to work on you, or maybe us on that panel. But for who it need to work for, it's going to work, unfortunately.
Right.
And what you got? Brella, that's his name? Nice to meet you, sister.
It is Brielle.
Brielle. So it's a violent crime, like a molestation, like you said, something like that, from a legal person. That make the crime worse because that person is illegal than the person that's illegal that's doing the molestation.
Wow.
Oh, she might be on mute.
You got to turn your mute off, and then once your camera off, you got to turn that off too.
My bad.
Okay, and here's something else as well. When you talk about that, when you talk about the rapists and stuff coming across the border, they're gonna try to turn that around on Donald Trump and say that he was held liable for sexual assault of the author E. Jean Carroll. So that's gonna be thrown out there.
E. Jean Carroll? Who's E. Jean Carroll?
E. Jean Carroll.
Oh, go ahead. Never mind. Go ahead, Vic. You got it.
E. Jean Carroll is the lady who was the author that claimed that Trump raped her years ago.
Oh, okay.
And actually, the court said that he was liable for sexual assault. So listen to the wording: liable for sexual assault. They never actually said rape.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That's just civil stuff, though, right? It ain't get to the point where he gonna get
exactly.
Yeah,
it's civil. There's nothing that he can be prosecuted for. He had to pay some money, but he have no chance of going to jail behind it.
But my bad. Back to your question, Will. I mean, it's wrong on both sides, but it's gotten to the point where it has skyrocketed. I'm not saying that it's right for legal, or illegal. It's just we have our own problems here, in America. Where, I'm not trying to rant or nothing, but you have open borders, and we got stuff that we got to deal with here. We can't, we got criminals that we got to deal with here. We got a broken justice system that we got to deal with over here, and we're allowing more and more of what we're dealing with in America coming from overseas. Like it's not right. And you have to put America first. And I do remember about I forgot what you said, Vic, who it was, but yeah, I mean, Kamala more than likely is going to toss that in there too, unless Trump got something on her that we don't know about.
Well,
all he got is
I'm
Willie
gonna
Brown.
I'm gonna throw something else out there. Here's the thing they gotta use about the border, and Joe Biden said it in his last State of the Union address. He said that they had a bill that was a bipartisan bill, and they was ready to pass it, but they said that Trump stopped the Republican for giving a yes vote on that bill. And one of the Republican senators, Langford out of Oklahoma, actually agreed with President Biden. So that's going to be thrown out there.
Okay, so they can throw that out there, but it's the fact that Trump's not president, one, and two, that bill was full of pork. That bill, it was disguised as being for the border, just like that whole Obamacare from Nancy Pelosi, and I quote, "We got to pass the bill to see what's in it." So that bill was just full of junk. So no, they didn't pass it because they wanted to have aid for. They wanted to have. They were like, if you want to close the border, you're gonna have to also include additional aid to Ukraine. That's what was in that border. It was nothing but a bunch of pork, a bunch of additional spending, a bunch of additional taxes. We're taxed out of the wazoo over here. We're getting taxed like crazy. There should be no reason why half of our paychecks go to taxes, both state and federal.
I ain't lying.
There should be no reason for that at all. But that's why, like again, they want to blame Trump. But you had how many years of the Democrats in office versus Trump's just 4 years? You had 8 years under Obama and Biden. Then you had 4 years. We're still in 4 years with Biden and Harris. And before that, you had Clinton as well. You had 8 years. What was it? 8 years under Clinton, but you had all those Democrats in before Trump. You can't. They want to blame Trump, but Trump was only there for 4 years. He didn't do perfect. He wasn't perfect.
You had Bill Clinton from 93 to 2001. And then from 2001 to 2009, you had George W. Bush, the son. Then from 2009 to 2017, you had Barack Obama. And from 2017 to 2021 was Donald Trump. Then Biden came in at 2021.
Right, but you also have what? You had a lifelong line of politicians before Trump even stepped foot in office. You had they were all politicians before Trump stepped foot in office. Again, Trump was only there for 4 years, and they're not blaming Bush. They're not blaming any of the Bushes. They're not pointing any blame at the Bushes. They're pointing all the blame at Trump. And we already know how the Bushes are right now anyway. Who we thought we knew back then, they're not who we thought we knew.
Well, okay, George W. Bush is being silent on the whole who he's supporting. He's being silent on that. Both he and Laura Bush. But as you know, Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz Cheney have said that they're going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Oh yeah, but Dick Cheney, if it weren't for Dick Cheney, Dick Cheney basically, he was the mastermind behind all of this stuff in the Middle East anyway.
He was, yes,
so
because a lot of this,
that's on him.
Yes, a lot of stuff that he did was actually to make his company Halliburton rich with the oil.
Right, exactly. So he had some skin in the game. So that was all on him. So that's why Dick Cheney came out, and then of course you got Kamala Harris talking about she's honored. So what does that mean? She's not going to try to. She's, to me anyway, it's not like she's going to try to end the wars that are going on right now. We got money. We got a war of our own right now, figuratively speaking, with our border being wide open. Just like Braille said, the border is wide open. We have illegals. I don't know how much y'all have been in the headlines lately, but you got illegals that are killing local wildlife and breaking in. You had MS-13 gang member going to school with a 13-year-old. He was actually enrolled in school, breaks into her room and kills her. Well, I don't.
Well,
What she was
what
about to say
happened?
is the Georgia shooter at the school, he illegal too, ain't it?
She probably
No.
gonna try to no.
I hope no, but see, they're gonna use that. They're gonna use that as far as gun safety. Here's one of the reasons why she picked Tim Walz as her running mate, the governor of Minnesota. It's because he's a hunter, and as we see that, unfortunately, he's not actually factual as well. He said that he carried guns in war, but he was just on a deployment to Italy where there was no wars going on. So he did not carry a gun in war. So he's not factual as well. But they're going to try to use him as somebody that said he could be a quote unquote responsible gun owner.
But again, I like with that whole thing with the MS-13 going into the school. You got to understand. It's like what I said before. We have issues going on in America. That's why we need these borders closed.
Yes,
What happened in Georgia, that was wrong, and it should not have happened. I mean, gosh, I mean, I look on the news and like you have Oconee County, Greenville, Abbeville, all those counties, all those school counties already. This is only like a month in school.
Right, exactly 1 month.
Oh, only 1 month in school and already have, threats. That's what I'm
But
saying.
see, here's the problem is that the mainstream media don't touch on that. They're not gonna touch on the MS-13. They're not gonna touch on what the illegal doing. But they're gonna wait till this guy in Georgia have a school shooting, and that's what they're gonna blow up for their purpose to try to as you know, as they always say, take away your guns.
Yeah, they're gonna use that.
Well, see, there's enough. But see, the thing with that though, also remember the thing with that, the FBI had that kid, his family, on their watch list. So why did the FBI drop the ball?
Exactly. But see, here's another thing.
That's sticky because you can't do something till somebody do something.
Okay, but see, here's another thing. I want to tell y'all what else gonna happen with this. With them having to talk to this boy and his parents at least 3 times prior to the shooting. This is where your Black Lives Matter people gonna come in, because they're gonna say if that was somebody black, they would have shot and killed him.
Well, I think he hit somebody black. I think when he was in court, it looked like some black folk parents been in there grieving.
There was one black student. There was one black student.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that, this is what they're gonna use. They're gonna say that anytime someone like George Floyd gets killed, or Philando Castile, or any other black person that got killed, because I think me and Matt, we talked about the situation in Atlanta that time, which I thought was blown out of proportion because the guy was wrong. We cannot let out somebody who was wrong because of the fact that, he was sitting in the car, he was drunk, he was not supposed to be there. People were trying to get off work that night. And when the police tried to say, we got to take you to jail because you was in your car drunk, he won't take the taser and taser police. So I'm not for killing anybody altogether, but he should have gotten shot, because you can't take a police taser and shoot at him and think that you're going to get off, scot-free.
Oh, yeah, they was actually nice to that guy. They tried to be nice to him. But he was so-called drunk.
Right. But but they made a big thing out of it, and they burnt down the windows and they protested, and but see, the thing was, the guy was wrong. I couldn't find nowhere to defend that guy.
You're right.
So this is what's gonna happen is that, see, they're gonna say the fact that they showed on the news yesterday. They showed when they talked to the father and the son at the house. They're gonna say, well, the mother called the school. They're gonna say all this stuff. There was all these red flags, and you did not act on it. And that's what they're gonna use.
Right. But let me ask a question about Trump. Now, has Trump come up with a nickname for Kamala Harris?
He called her Kamala.
Well,
Yeah,
that's just him
Kamala.
saying the name wrong. But I think that's where, as far as his stick, now I ain't talking about his politics, his stick is going to be affected tonight because all these other men he ran against, Sleepy Joe, something about Ted Cruz, what was he? And then you had Young Rubio or something. He had names for all these people.
Right. Sleepy Joe, low energy jab.
Yeah, low energy jab. But
I think it was Creepy Ted.
Creepy Ted.
DeSanctimonious.
It's more sticky to do it this way because you got this female up here now. So
right, but see, what's going to happen is
you got to put that down.
Right. See, what's going to happen is this. They're going to say he's being disrespectful because, see, what they're saying is that he be nasty to women. He be so nasty to a woman. And because he's supposed to be a, quote, woman of color, then they're going to especially wait for him to say something to her, what they call disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to hinder his performance. Now, I think they're gonna go ahead.
I think no matter which way it blows, because you look at the media coverage of Trump versus Kamala, it's more favorable for her than it is for Trump. Sometimes they'll come out and they'll actually hold her accountable on some things, but they've been babysitting her from the jump. Like that soft blow sit down that she had with
Dana Bash for CNN.
Yeah, with that. Like, if it were Trump, love him or hate him, if it were Trump, his questions, his time on air would have been a lot worse. He would have gotten something. You can go back and you can see the differences in the way he's questioned. And not only that, but that thing was supposed to have been live, but it was actually like 15 minutes divided, and you only...
It was recorded.
Right, it was pre-recorded, and then they filled it in. They fluffed it up with a bunch of commercials and campaign ads. Yeah. So
well, I think she even recorded an interview on the Ricky Smiley show, either yesterday morning or this morning.
I said that one more time. I'm sorry, you kind of went out.
I said that she even did a recorded interview on the Ricky Smiley show either yesterday morning or this morning.
Right. So yeah. So she's going to these. So Trump is traveling the U.S. and he's going to these. He's showing up in a bunch of places, doing a bunch of sit downs, interviews, and he's staying working. He's going on both sides. Like, he showed up to what was that panel of those black journalists?
The National Association of Black Journalists.
Right. So why didn't she show up?
That's a good question. She claimed that she had a prior engagement, and she offered to do the interview via Zoom or something like that, but they wasn't going to accept that.
This is where Trump has an advantage. Trump's advantage is Trump already knows what is expected of you at these sit downs, at these preliminary hearings and meetings and before a presidential debate and election. Now, there's a big difference from knowing what you have to do and people telling you what you need to do. Does that make sense?
I get you. I get what you're saying.
Well, it was also like when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the U.S. She called it a scheduling conflict, but one, I'm pretty sure there was a heads up before he touched down into the U.S. And two, her scheduling conflict was what? Her sitting over there with her sorority sisters.
Right.
And
She said
cycling
that
up with
she
them.
they claimed that she did go and speak with him a couple of days later in a
Yeah,
private meeting.
but that don't hit the same. You talking about world leadership. You talking about you want to
Right.
be the leader of the free world. You're wanting to say that you're the president, but you fail to actually meet with other foreign adversaries. And he's our our ally over there in the Middle East.
Right.
So how do you pass up meeting an ally just to go sit down and have fun with your sorority sisters?
Well, see,
That
that's where she was trying to promote her blackness.
well, yeah, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. Like
Yes.
it don't jive. I
Right.
mean, your blackness, I could care.
She ain't black.
Well, of course, I don't care what what level of the palette of brownness you land on. My thing is, what are you gonna do for this nation and our allies? But instead, you wanted to sit over there with some tea and crumpets and cackle with your sorority sisters. I don't have anything to do with your sorority sisters. But fine, you go hit them up later. But right now, you running for president, but you just refuse to act presidential.
Well, right now we know who one of the biggest voting constituents are black women. Black women, because to me it seemed like they forgot all about the black men. That's what it seemed like to me.
Well, that's
So
because a lot of the black men seem to have woken up to that mess.
right, so they gonna kowtow to the black women and to women altogether, but particularly black women because if you remember back in 2020. She's a senator out of Minnesota. She ran for president. I can't remember her name right off. Oh my gosh, Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, Klobuchar, yeah.
Yeah, so Amy Klobuchar claimed that she told Joe Biden, "Don't consider me as a running mate. I want you to go and get a black female."
Yeah. And then what did Kamala do? Oh, yes, master. Here I am.
Here I is.
Here I is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hell no.
Well, let's be real about
Dang, y'all savage.
this. Like the whole thing with what's going on is the fact that like I was talking to somebody earlier this last week about blackness and how powerful we are as a people and how the United States of America, I'm sorry, the divided states of America stay divided because in order for a white man to feel comfortable, we have to they have to feel in they have to make us feel inferior to them. And so no matter what I tell people now is like when they ask me, well, who are you going to vote for? Um, it's not that I don't like Kamala, and it's not that I like Trump. It's like
I
I
don't
know
like Kamala and I like Trump.
I know where Trump I know where Trump and his racism or whatever the case. I know him as a more of a person than I do Kamala, and so it's like you're voting for the lesser of the two evils, and it comes down to the case of the devil you know is better than the devil that you don't know.
Well, see, the only
Well,
thing I have to, so this is what I'm going to say on that, right? So my thing is also the religious beliefs. I'm fair that everyone here is Christian. So when it comes to our beliefs, right, we do have a responsibility to vote for those who reflect mostly and closely to those beliefs.
Yes.
So I'm looking and following. I'm looking at both sides. And yes, I'm Trump. I'm never going to deny that. Never going to change it or hide it. But
Amen.
I also
Same
look
here.
at. I also look at the policies across the board. Now, yeah, Kamala just came out with her policies, but we kind of already had a screenshot of where her head was at and where she was intending to go with it. So if you go, whenever y'all get the chance, look up who she. Now, one, you have Tim Walz. You need to go look up that man's church. All right, you look up that man's church and then get back to me. But then you also have who she just picked for her what was that thing called? Her religious I can't remember the exact
spiritual
name
advisor.
of the title. Yeah, her spiritual advisor. Yeah, there you go. Check out that lady as well. So that's who Kamala has, okay? And now that lady, if you go and you look at her website, what she stands for, what she believes, it totally goes against the Bible. It just they just use the Bible as their way to just eat away and choose what it is and misconstrue the truth. And she stands for that because they also intend to shut down anyone who they believe is not preaching the preaching, or who they don't agree with in regards to preaching the Bible.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. But
wait, hold on. But I was about to say Trump just pulled in Ben Carson. I wanted to put that out there, but go ahead, oh boy.
All right. Before anything get going, before we get this party started, I'm gonna need everybody in this chat to like my video. First and foremost. Anything that you want to say, put it in the chat. We need some engagement here. Okay. All right. So go ahead. Y'all go ahead and finish what you were saying.
No, but like that's one of the biggest things. You have Trump, who came out a few months ago with what was it? He was speaking with Charlie Kirk's show, or they had an engagement. So he's going to implement a task force, rather, that's going to go out and there's not many of them have been displayed in the media. Not a lot of them have gotten a lot of coverage. But you have people that have gotten arrested just for being outside of an abortion clinic and just praying. They've been arrested. You have like a 70-something-year-old great-grandmother who's been arrested. And I think at the moment she also has cancer. She's still in prison. And then there was a husband, father, that he had his house raided, guns drawn, while he was with his family. He has kids. And the weapons were drawn. So you have Christians that are being persecuted just by being outside of an abortion clinic, and all they were doing was praying or singing praise and worship. So you have situations like that, and there's other ones out there, but you got to see, as Christians, that's one of the biggest things that we cannot settle on. There's a lot of things that play in biblically and scripturally with what's going on in regards to the border, what's going on with crime, what's going on with a whole bunch of other things, abortion. There's a lot, but it's our duty as Christians we're not supposed to bend on that. No, they're not going to be perfect, and Trump is not perfect at all. He's human. He's not God. He's not God, and he should not be looked upon as God. However, he's the one that's closest allies to the Christians. Go ahead.
Well, okay. First, I'm gonna say this. If you ever listen to Nancy Pelosi, she says she's a devout Catholic, and she's holy. She said, as a matter of fact, her parents would have been more proud of her being a nun than they would have as a congresswoman, because that's how devout she's supposed to be. Also, they're gonna use all these things against Trump, because if you listen to some of the other channels, MSNBC in particular, when they announced Trump, they always said the twice impeached, 34 counts convicted ex-president. So they're gonna use all those things to try to diminish any other Christianity on the right side. so that way they can try to lift themselves up and be self-righteous. So that's what you have to look at too. The things that the tactics that they are using to try to demonize Donald Trump.
But
Right.
and there was a because I remember that she said she was a devout Catholic, her and Joe Biden, but there been a couple of priests that pretty much been like, no, you can't
They've
be
come
Catholic.
out and denounced them. Yeah, they've come out and denounced them and
They,
what
they
they
have
stand
came
for.
out and
Yeah.
denounced them. They're like, you can't be Catholic, but then you go for abortion.
The reason why they
And
like
then-
to tout.
but-
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brielle. Go ahead.
But also, I thought it was pretty cool, and and this might be brought up to the debate because I brought up in the debate of how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is willing to help, like, because he's a devout Catholic.
Hold on.
And-
Hold on. I'm devout too, but I need these lights to get devout. I got 7 people in this. I got 7 people in this discussion, and I only see 2 likes. Get my likes up right now, point blank, period, or you're getting out my chat. Go ahead.
He said pay tax.
Let me figure out how to do this light thing. Help me out.
Chill.
You got to go on the YouTube, and then to the YouTube, and then hit like underneath it.
All right. Okay, I'm still. Can y'all still hear me?
Go ahead. I can still hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brielle. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Y'all got to pay taxes. Y'all got to pay my tithes and offers now.
No, but no, like, no, I was just saying, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he said he'd been praying for like 16 years because he's been wanting to help children. And with this whole health crisis, with the kids, and not only just kids, but us adults as well. And I thought that was, pretty empowering and uplifting. And not only that is what's going to make Trump stand out in the debate as well, because Kamala doesn't have anybody like that. Not on her team. You just have everybody just ready to,
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, and this is funny to me. Where before all the stuff that the Kennedy did was all right, as long as they was on the left. But since Robert Kennedy went to Trump, they're using the fact that he had a former drug addiction. Someone even wrote an article in a New Yorker magazine saying that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was the drug dealer. So those are things that they're gonna throw out there to try to discredit him. But like I said, all these Kennedy did these things throughout the history of their lives. But as long as they were Democrat, they turned a blind eye to it. But now, since he's going to support Trump, all the stuff gonna come out about him.
Yeah, I mean, they can try to pull that, but I think they're prepared for all of that, honestly, because I don't think, okay, yeah, they got that on Robert F. Kennedy, but nothing's going to compete with who she has as her VP. He had a horrible reaction with COVID, how he locked down businesses. He actually closed businesses. How the riots ensued during what's his name?
George Floyd.
Yeah,
George
Floyd, right? Like his wife is on record saying how she kept the windows open so she could smell the burning of tires.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Because she said it was like revolutionary or something. It was like, yo, these people are out here having their lives destroyed, losing losing everything, and you're saying you want to keep the windows open. Yeah, check it out. She's out there. They got it recorded. It's out there. There ain't no takebacks. That's what she said.
Well,
okay.
I mean, you also
tire. Do anybody understand how toxic and how awful that smells? Burning tire. I can't stand it.
No,
and
I
she
know.
kept
Well, she did.
Oh my God.
Well, she
yeah,
didn't
and
have a
Walt.
problem.
Yeah, and like Brielle said, Walt's had a hotline for you to go snitch on your neighbor during COVID. Oh, you're not in that house when you're supposed to be. I'm going to call.
Wow.
Here, I'm going to go call. So, yeah, okay, yeah. RFK sold drugs. Hey, that was what? How many years ago?
Oh, that's over 20 years ago.
Yeah, so, but this right here, no. And I mean, that ain't nothing compared to that.
If we remember, in 1995, Tim Walz was also convicted of a DUI.
Yeah, convicted. Yep, convicted of a DUI.
Mm-hmm.
He got off on that.
Yes.
Then you also have his stolen valor, and
Mm-hmm.
there's several other things. But then, I mean, there's plenty of blows to go around for both sides for sure.
But see, they thought that Tim Walz would be the plain talking, Midwestern guy, and I think they felt like he can be someone that can be almost like a, lack of a better term, a Trump on the left in a sense, because of his plain talking. He came from the small town in Nebraska. He's a hunter. He was a soldier for 24 years in the Minnesota National Guard, so on and so forth.
Right.
So it all goes off of everybody's got a past, and if you have to dig
Most
up past,
definitely.
if you dig up past in order to have a foot on someone's neck to try and sway people to vote for you, like what let's be real now. Let's be real. What happened to voting for the person that's just right for the job? What happened to putting likes and dislikes aside and actually going and actually voting for somebody that's going to do some good in the position that they're trying to go for? Like, when does all of that come into play?
People got suckered into the identity politics. That's one thing that the left have definitely tapped into, is that identity politics and pulling at the heartstrings. And people just threw common sense and out the window for feel goods, their feels.
And
which at the end of the day, that's not even going to matter. At the end of the day, that's not even going to matter, because if you get somebody in office who's going to make your life miserable, those feelings going to turn into something else.
Well, right now, the way things look, Trump got it with the Electoral College. Even right now, if Kamala Harris get the popular vote, Trump is still in the election with the Electoral College. It would be similar to how the election was with Hillary Clinton, and he could still win this election with no problem. And that's what is probably going to happen, unless they somehow, they tugging at the black women now more than anybody. Because see, Trump, I think, have more black men vote for him than Richard Nixon was the last Republican president to get over 20% of the black votes. And Trump may end up being the next one to do that. And that was back in 1972 with Richard Nixon. But
crazy days. Hold on. We got what my time look like?
Okay, it's 9 o'clock on the head now.
Yes,
so
9 o'clock on the head. Yeah, the debate
and
about
they're looking at about to start.
Y'all go ahead and continue this.
This is like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, continue this spirited debate, please.
Debate, yeah.
Because it's about to go down tonight.
Are you gonna have the volume up on the debate?
Yeah, I got everything down right now because we talking.
Okay.
Can y'all?
Ernest, you with us?
Y'all hear that?
Georgia. We're listening.
Yeah, you good.
Oh, shucks. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm here. To hear from the candidates tonight.
Yeah, I would like to hear how
I got a question though. What network should we watch this on?
All right.
ABC.
You want to watch it on ABC?
They're gonna show it.
All right.
Yes.
They gonna mute. ABC is gonna mute the mics for whoever's talking, for whoever
Right.
ain't talking.
We will soon be.
How'd our volume sound just now?
That was good.
All right. It's still coming on. Let me I guess we can so look, while it's running, I'm gonna try not to stop this thing. So we gonna let it play and let's go. Like, comment, subscribe.
Around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, drew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say They have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's an execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond. But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, they you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's the
question?
problem.
Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created.